So I recently got a comment on one of the videos that I posted about a guy who was interested in learning more about what he's getting into when he goes to build a bike. Now, I'm going to read this guy's comment just so you guys get an idea of what it is, but here we go. I've got decent knowledge about cars and have always wanted to build a cafe racer for commuting around town. Yet I have very little knowledge of motorcycles. If I was to build my own bike, what's one thing that I should avoid at all costs, and what is a good indicator for a good bike to get? I'm also looking for a Honda CB due to me having knowledge of Honda cars. Now, this is a really good question, and I think that it's going to make a great video. These are some things that I wish I knew prior to getting into building the CBs, and I think it should be pretty helpful for people who are in a similar situation. Now, him having knowledge about building cars is going to translate across the board for motorcycles. The one thing that's different is that there's probably less parts than what he's probably going to be dealing with on a car. Things like ignition timing, building an engine, the fuel system. A lot of that is similar with the exception of carburation, and the knowledge is pretty transparent. It goes across the board. He shouldn't have any issue like understanding what's going on. Now let's get into answering his question about what he should be looking for in a bike, especially with these CBs. That's the one that he wants to stick with. He wants to stay with a Honda. Luckily, I have a lot of experience with these CBs. I've built probably 10 of them in the last 10 years. And, in 2023, they're still great bikes, but there are some things that you should be aware of before getting into it. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about what type of bike he should be looking for when it comes to sourcing a bike. Hands down, the best option is to get a running motorcycle. And there's plenty of them out there, but you're going to be paying a pretty penny for them. You may be paying more, but let me tell you why it's better to pay more for the bike that's complete and running than it is a parted out bike that's in baskets in his garage. Now, when it comes to a basket case, you may look and see that the engine and the frame and the wheels and the front end and everything is there. However, what you're not seeing are the little parts, the little things like spacers, axles, engine mounts, the weird bolts that are weird sizes that you can't just run to the hardware store and get. All of those little tiny parts add up, and they add up to a significant amount of money. Now, if you get a running bike that's rolling down the road, like, you already know that all the parts are there and you're going to save money. So you need to weigh the cost. You need to be like, all right, well, if I get this running bike that's complete, I know everything's good, then I'm not going to have to spend money because I know that the parts are there. In most cases, if it's an OEM Honda part and you cannot find it, it's cheaper to restore the part that you have, whether that's rusty, corroded, the coating's coming off, it's threaded wrong, it got cross-threaded, whatever it is, it's going to be cheaper to restore that part than it is to kind of go out and find one that's in good condition on eBay, and hopefully you can find it. Now, let's talk about the parts a little bit. A lot of these parts from the 70s are starting to get pretty scarce. For instance, in my case, the CB550, since I'm building two of those right now, the lower crankshaft bearings are nearly impossible to find. These bearings are color-coded, and they correlate to a size that you need for a specific crankshaft. I hope that makes sense. There's 10 lower crankshaft bearings in a CB550, and each one of them in current market value is about $17 a piece. Now, I've been very, very adamant about looking for these bearings online, and I've been lucky. I've found the color that I need and the quantity that I need. But don't think that you're going to go out there and buy 10 of them off the shelf. You're going to have to do some searching. That is a major, major consideration when looking at these bikes. Now, I will say, in the past 10 years of building CBs, I've measured every single crankshaft bearing that I've gotten, and most of them are well within spec and have a lot more life to give. Now, in the race engine that I'm building right now, that's a different scenario. That engine is going to be pushed to the limit, it's going to be ran hard, and it's probably going to get super hot. So I wanted brand new bearings for that. Now, I could have kept the bearings that were in it, and in your case, if you're just going to be building this as a commuter or like a daily driver, like, you'd be totally fine with leaving those bearings in as long as they are within tolerance. But just keep in mind that they are getting hard to find. Some one-off odd bolts that you may need for the engine are getting hard to find. Some of the inventory that Honda actually has at dealers right now is starting to run out, and parts aren't as easy to come by as they used to be. Next up is the carburation. Now, in the 1970s, the Honda CB line of motorcycles was hit hard with emission regulations, and Honda used the airbox and the carburetor to basically manage that. So the combination that they put on those stock bikes, that's the combination that bike wants to run. What most people will do right when they get a bike is they'll pull that airbox off and put pod filters or velocity stacks on the stock carburetors. The problem with that is that those carbs do not like that at all. And you can tune them all day long and do everything that you can to get them to run okay, but they'll never run as good as the stock CB airbox. Those carburetors, for whatever reason, like a slow, steady pull of air, and that's exactly what that airbox offers. So, I mean, I've tuned many carburetors, and I've always had issues. There, not one is the same, and you pull your hair out basically trying to get those things to run right. Now, with that said, you can get them to run okay, and you can get them to be acceptable around town, but just know that you're probably going to struggle with erratic idle, some weird flat spot in the bottom of the power curve, and just problems that kind of make you not want to do it. So the workaround to that is to either go with a Cayenne race carburetor, which are super expensive. That's what I'm using on my race bike. Or to find another set of carburetors from a different manufacturer, a different bike, that line up with the intake holes on the back of the cylinder, and go from there. Now, the single overhead cams forum online, that's a great place to start if you're looking for that. I know some people have done like Cowie conversions and some other things, but just know that the carburation in stock form, like, I don't care how good you are, they're tough to tune for sure. And last but not least is the price. Now, the CBs from when I started buying them 10 years ago have gone up quite a bit. And the reason for that is because they're super popular bikes. Like the CB, in my opinion, they look the best. If you're going for like a cafe racer style or whatever, like there's some great examples out there of bikes that have been built and they become super popular. So yeah, they're getting pricey, but if you're going to start with it, you're going to have a great time just going into it, knowing the things that I just explained. You should have no issue. They're great bikes to build. They're super fun. There's a great community online, and I hope all of these things that I just covered help you in your next build. If you haven't already, check out my build series, which is right here. I'm building a CB550 race bike that's track specific. It's got modern suspension, modern wheels. It's got a pretty crazy race engine that I'm just finishing up. And then, it's got some custom carbon fiber parts. This is actually a mold. Well, this will actually be turned into a mold for the gas tank. So if you haven't checked out that series, go ahead and check that out. But until next time, see ya.